Alright. Okay, so in this video I just want to give you a little better understanding of the shoulder itself and all the parts that make it up. So I'm going to start with just knowing that the shoulder is the most mobile joint in the body, and as Vivian moves her arm you'll see that it can go in just about any direction. All kinds of degrees of freedom are involved in there. And that's because of the makeup of the shoulder. The shoulder is a ball and socket joint, and it's made up of 3 bones basically that make up this complex. The first is this upper arm bone here. It's called the humerus, and also the clavicle bone or your collarbone, which goes through here, and then your shoulder blade here, which is known as the scapula. Now, the humerus, or the upper arm bone, has a ball on the end of it, and it's on the scapula there's a cup that creates a socket, and that's where you get a lot of the mobility and degrees of freedom that the shoulder allows. Now, unlike other joints, there's not a lot of ligament structures holding this together. It relies heavily on the muscles of the shoulder, and the most important stabilizing component of the shoulder is what's known as the rotator cuff, and that's made up of 4 muscles that basically come off your shoulder blade, and they attach and wrap around and sort of create a sleeve of stability through your shoulder. And its main purpose is to contract and control. When you're moving your arm, it wants to stabilize the ball of the joint in the socket. But you also need to discuss other muscles that are around here, and mainly these big shoulder blade muscles. The 2 important ones that we want to talk about with regard to shoulder pain are the trapezius muscle, which is a large muscle that goes basically from the base of your skull out to the shoulder and all the way down to the bottom of your middle back there. And of course it does that on both sides. The other muscle is the serratus anterior, and this is going to be a key muscle when we're talking about shoulder dysfunction and shoulder pain. This muscle, it's really hard to see or show it, but it sits underneath the shoulder blade, and I'm going to turn you just a second here. And it actually attaches down here on the ribs. Okay. Now, why that muscle is important is because, along with the trapezius, it controls how your shoulder blade is moving. And when you're raising your arm up, and go ahead and raise it as high as you can, the shoulder blade goes with it. And the important thing is to have synergy and good strength from the upper trapezius and the serratus anterior. Usually this becomes an issue for people because of poor postural habits, and those muscles can become tight and weak. So those are the main muscular components that we're talking about. When you're dealing with the shoulder, you also need to think about the cervical spine, which is in the neck area, because sometimes issues in the cervical spine can cause radiating pain that seems like you're having shoulder pain, but it's really coming from the neck. Lastly, you want to talk about the thoracic spine, which is basically the spinal column from here to here. Okay. Most people have a lot of limited mobility in this area, and that can cause postural problems and cause your shoulder blades to kind of migrate out to the side and lead to shoulder issues. So when we're dealing with shoulder pain and shoulder issues, we want to also really consider how mobile the thoracic spine is. So that's just a real quick overview of a very complicated joint, just to give you a better understanding of what it is you're dealing with structure-wise when we're talking about shoulder pain.